Hi readers, this is Raymond.Tan from 10 and 10 Lawyers, who is also the Perth Asian lawyer blogger. Welcome back to the blog. Today we're going to talk about franchises. I've recently had a spate of clients coming in to see me, asking me for franchise advice. And I suppose the first question is, why would you want to buy a franchise? Now, many people who have never had any businesses before find that it's easier for them to start a business if they purchase a franchise. And the reason is that a franchise, if it's a good one, should have systems set up in place for you to operate your business as smoothly as possible. Matters like cash flow adjustments, payroll adjustments, how much you have to pay to your employees, how much stock you can order. These are all put into a system so that it becomes easier for you to succeed in your business. However, not all franchises are good. There are some that are very new and they may not have actually been in business for a long time for them to factor in proper things like cash flow issues, product costs, employment issues. So if those systems are not put in place and the franchisor tries to sell you that franchise, you may be buying into a problem. Now, if you wish to take part in buying a franchise, then I suggest that you should see a lawyer first before you sign any documents. Now, more likely than not, you may want to buy a business which is operating as a franchise, a business that's already operating. So my suggestion is you need to discuss with your accountant and your lawyer what entity you'll be using to buy this business. That's the first step. So do you use your individual name? Do you use a company name? Do you use a trust? You need to consider all that first before you even put an offer down on paper to the seller of the business, whether it's a franchise business or not. So if you put an offer down, then you also should see a lawyer for them to draft that offer to say, I'm going to buy this business with a franchise and these are my terms and conditions. It should firstly be subject to your lawyers going through the franchise documents to make sure that the terms in the franchise documents are acceptable. And also it should be subject to your lawyers going through the lease documents to make sure that the terms in the lease are compatible with the franchise terms that are being granted to you by the franchisor. Now, if you have an offer with those conditions saying that I'm buying your business subject to my lawyers checking all these things out, then when you get the documents from the seller and hand it over to your lawyers, the lawyers can quickly go through the documents and then tell you whether the purchase would be sound or not and whether there should be any other terms that should be included in there. Now, as part of the sale process or taking up a franchise, the franchisor has the duty to give you what we call a disclosure statement. Now, the disclosure statement is a requirement by law, and you'll be surprised how much information you can get from the disclosure statement. One of the first things that I will look at when I see the disclosure statement is how many franchises have been transferred, how many franchises have been closed down, how many franchises have been taken over by the franchisor. Now, if the disclosure statement indicates that there's quite a few that's been closed down, then obviously alarm bells ring and you know that there could be a slight problem. Sometimes the franchisor takes over the franchise because the franchise is not doing well, the franchisee is not doing well, and therefore they have to disclose that they have taken over the business from the franchisee. That again is an indication that it's not doing well. So that's partly the information that the law requires the franchisor to disclose to you. Now, when you bring the franchise and lease documents to me, I would be able, or to any lawyer, they will be able to quickly go through to make sure that those terms are in your best favor. Now, what are some of the things that we look out for? Sometimes when you look at the lease, you'll find that there is what we call a redevelopment clause. A redevelopment clause is a clause that says that the landlord can give you notice to say, we want you to move from those premises because we are going to redevelop it, tear down the old shop and redo it. Now, if there's such a clause in there, that means you can imagine you have paid $300,000-400,000 for a business, which is franchise, and there's a lease, and suddenly after 3 months of operation, the landlord tells you, we want you to move. So whatever you have paid for would have gone to waste. Sometimes the landlord and the franchisor have got conditions in the agreements to say that they require the franchisee to refurbish the business premises. Now those refurbishment costs may come up to $50,000 to $100,000 depending on what kind of business we're talking about. So you need to make sure that those clauses are made known to you so that you know what your potential exposure will be. So it is a big step buying a franchise business, and you may spend more likely $200,000 to $300,000 to take over such a business. I think it's in your best interest to just go and see a lawyer for advice, any lawyer, before you sign those documents, right? If there's any questions, please email me. Thank you.